Well, the White House may have gotten more than it bargained for yesterday when First Lady Michelle Obama took to Twitter to take questions about her Let's Move initiative. While she did answer questions about exercise and healthy eating, she also got peppered with many questions on other topics, ranging from those canceled White House tours to healthcare reform to Benghazi. Here are just a few examples. One person asks, where in the Constitution does it state that FLOTUS, which is short for First Lady of the United States, shall tell kids what to eat? Just wondering. Another writes, will you ask your husband to stop stomping on my religious freedoms? Okay, thanks. And then there's, why do you think the media has spent more time reporting on your bangs than they have on Benghazi? Joining us now to discuss whether this is appropriate, Sally Kohn, who's a Fox News contributor, David Webb, who is the host of the David Webb Show on Sirius XM Patriot Radio. The stuff we just put in the intro was tame.
Yes.
I mean, here's just a couple of here's a couple of examples. Can someone volunteer to walk and groom your dog so the White House can be open for our school children's tours? Just asking for a friend. And they say, if our public schools are so good, why don't your kids go to them? What's the best vacation destination to escape to when you really feel like spending my tax dollars in style? Your thoughts?
I mean, look. Most of the questions were on, what healthy meals does she like and what sorts of exercises
Turkey
are her
chili
favorite
is the
sort
answer.
of, and kickboxing, apparently. I mean, you got to give it to Republicans and to the far right on this one. They have at least managed to be extremely consistent on attacking this administration for everything under the sun. I mean, the first George Bush, he promoted exercise with Arnold Schwarzenegger, we remember that. First Lady Laura Bush, the second George Bush, she promoted literacy. This First Lady, she promotes exercise and healthy eating and military families, and yet the far right of the Republican Party has determined they're going to oppose every single thing this president does, and you got to give it to them. They've been consistent.
What about it, David? Because I'm trying to picture if Laura Bush had taken to Twitter, which wasn't really around when he was president, and received this sort of negative feedback about all of her husband's decisions. Most of it was directed, not all of it.
It was a pathway to her husband. Let's call it what it is.
Then I'm sure some on the right would be outraged that the sitting First Lady was subjected to it.
And I don't like disrespect, and I'll say that up front, but first of all, I don't know how you determine it was all the far right. It could have been libertarians, could have been Democrats. These were people.
They weren't signing it. I mean,
yeah, they weren't signing them far right. But these were people who were, while they were being disrespectful in some form, were echoing the frustration of Americans with lack of transparency, with a bad optics, an out-of-touch administration, and frankly, a more imperial family that has Bo that gets a motorcade to go to Petco, while the royal dog gets a motorcade to go to Petco, while $74,000 a week will let kids from Iowa go to the White House. The millions of dollars that are spent, $190+ million for Air Force One for some of these trips, well, $51 million the annual budget for the year would keep the White House open. So people could go to it. This is our house.
So you're speaking to their frustration.
The frustration. And, Michelle Obama, by the way, the nanny. We have Nanny Bloomberg in New York, and we've got a nanny who wants to tell America, and I'm all for exercise. NFL Play 60, all these things, even her program. But it's the left that has led the charge to remove recess from schools, which is where kids play. Some of the things they've said, well, maybe somebody will get feelings and get hurt if they play tag. Kids run naturally at recess.
But not Michelle Obama. But I do want to say this.
Should we go to Bean Burgers in California that were thrown out?
Hold on. I was at the inauguration of Barack Obama both times. But on January of 2009, I stood there as First Lady Laura Bush, outgoing First Lady, was booed. She personally was booed. Barbara Bush, the married to Bush the Elder, booed. They booed those First Ladies. It is not unique to this First Lady.
No, you know what? Look, I kind of side with David about not disrespect, although then I think calling the presidency imperial would sort of fall into that category.
Did the left do that with President Bush?
I don't think personal attacks in general are appropriate for our politics, and I've been pretty obvious and pretty outspoken on this in both the left and the right. When women speak out, on the left and the right, they shouldn't get attacked on Twitter and with rape threats and death threats and so on and so forth. The racist threats that I know David gets when he speaks out from the left or the right. So all of this, the fact that the president and the First Lady are attacked personally, it's inappropriate. That said, the fact that I kind of feel bad for the far right now, for Republicans, that, look, their issues are losing. They're less and less popular. They're losing voters. They lost the election, which by any measure they should have easily won. And instead of dealing with their own increasingly obvious irrelevance, they're using the sort of smoke of mirrors of social media to pretend that these sort of things that they are the small minority of people are concerned about are actually big issues for the public that supports the president.
The small minority of people are concerned about Benghazi. That's a small minority. By the way, this isn't necessarily a far right or far left issue, and I know you like to paint far right, far left. This is an issue of disrespect in one form. It's an issue of frustration with by the American people with an administration that has been less transparent. That is not a right or left issue. That is a matter of redacted pages of black ink. That is a matter of no transparency when it comes to Benghazi, Fast and Furious, and other issues. And frankly, an administration that said, we want to work with the Republicans, but in one case on the debt and deficit battle didn't talk to Republicans for 51 weeks. So we're talking about a marked difference in how they do business and the American people.
Do you think that the First Lady should be immune to this? Now, she doesn't go out there. First Lady Michelle Obama doesn't go out there and make a lot of political speeches. She's
made a few.
She's stuck the toe in, right? She's stuck the toe in, and she's been very visible lately with Jimmy Fallon and all these other things. But do you think that she is fair game for negative political feedback like this?
You know, look, I don't think all's fair in politics. So, you know, no, I don't think it's fair to sort of say, it would be appropriate to say she's kind of off limits because she also has played a campaign role. So I don't think that's about, you can't question her, you can't challenge her. I think there is respect and there's accountability. So I think we should, both sides of the aisle, hold all of our political leaders, and she is, by proxy of her relationship, a political leader, hold them accountable, ask them tough questions, but be respectful. And where I'd like to see some sort of bipartisan agreement is, look, the Bush administration was bad on transparency, and Obama has been bad on transparency and can do better. But let's be consistent. That's not true, David.
By the numbers,
and, you know,
he's been
sort
worse.
of like,
GAO reports.
oh, they canceled White House tours. Well, we all know if they hadn't canceled White House tours and canceled something else, the Republicans would be complaining about that. This sort of
they wouldn't complain if they canceled the White House stenographer, the calligrapher,
about everything.
The calligrapher lives on, but the tours are gone.
Attack everything the
or
man
the $100,000 salary that's paid to the White House tour director. We're talking about the difference again in how people see the president. The frustration's there.
The frustration is absolutely there. If you Google the, you know, as I say, we kept the tame ones on for the segment. Some of them got rather unfortunate. Panel, thank you both.
Pleasure.